House, Mario Kart Double-Dash, Drive, Throw Stuff, Switch, only for Nintendo Gamecube, literally for everyone. Gamecube.
I'm going to start today's video by saying something that people may disagree with. Mario Kart Double-Dash is the best Mario Kart sequel we have ever had. But allow me to explain. I don't think the Double-Dash is the best Mario Kart in terms of its gameplay. But I do think the title is the best example of innovation we have seen in the series. While the introduction of the glider was nice in Mario Kart 7, and the magnetizing wheels for Mario Kart 8 certainly has made the course design much more interesting. Double Dash stands apart by having introduced a new way for the series to be played with its cooperative mode, as well as making the choice of driver combinations not down to just stats, but down to the choice of car and unique items as well. It was the single biggest leap forward the series has taken arguably since its conception. It has always been cemented in my mind as the true next step in the Mario Kart series. From Super Mario Kart for the SNES, with the use of Mode 7 providing us some amazing pseudo 3D graphics, to Mario Kart 64 which provided us with true 3D, to Mario Kart Super Circuit for the handheld market. It wasn't a bad game but did nothing to evolve the franchise. To Double Dash, a true move forward and the fourth entry in the highly successful series. However, even though this title was stocked full of amazing improvements, there were many things that were cut from it. So I'd like to welcome everyone to a developmental history of Mario Kart Double Dash for the Nintendo Gamecube. We will be breaking this video down in 3 sections. Characters, cut features and tracks. Let us begin. In 2001 at the E3 Expo, Mario Kart for the Nintendo Gamecube was teased. A short 8-second clip that simply showed Mario and Luigi riding their karts towards the camera was shown. They were appearing with more polygons than ever before, and it had the public extremely hyped. Even though we would later find out that Nintendo had used Super Smash Bros. Assets to create the teaser, it's fair to assume that Double Dash was so early in development that they couldn't even piece together 8 seconds with actual assets the game would use. It didn't stop leaving the audience anxiously expecting the newest Mario Kart for the system, however. Reviewers at the time knew that this footage was very simplistic and that it was a teaser and nothing more. Many news outlets commented saying that there was no chance that we would be seeing a 2001 launch for the title. It wouldn't be till the E3 Expo in May 2003 that we would see more. There was a playable demo of Double Dash. These demos were played on a special disc. There were 2 versions of these demo discs that were available, one for the European market and one for North America. These demo discs are important for 2 reasons. Firstly, footage was recorded of these demos at E3 that allows us to investigate for changes to the game. And secondly, these discs were eventually obtained and examined to discover various secrets and unused content that will make up parts of this video. In November 2003, Double Dash was released worldwide and would eventually be the second best-selling title on the system, with just under 7 million copies sold. In the final version of the game, we have 20 characters available. However, when we begin looking into early character files from the demo disc, we can see that Diddy Kong was in fact not intended to be in the game. Donkey Kong Jr. was supposed to be there instead, but he was cut. Donkey Kong Jr. had previously made his last appearance in the original Super Mario Kart, and it made sense to bring him back to pair up with his son Donkey Kong, especially considering Diddy had his own racing kart franchise on the Nintendo 64. It's unlikely that Nintendo wanted to muddy the water between the 2 series. But this is where it gets interesting. Rare, who were the developers behind Diddy Kong Racing, were purchased by Microsoft in September of 2002, exactly when Double Dash was in the middle of heavy development. So what's likely to have happened here is originally Nintendo were going ahead with Donkey Kong Jr. being added to the game. But since Rare had been purchased, they knew they were unlikely to be doing any more of the DK racing titles for the foreseeable future, except the remake that was to be developed for the handhelds, especially considering they had canned the Donkey Kong Racing sequel because of the buyout. Since Diddy Kong was no longer going to be used as a distinct character for those titles, they most likely made the decision to include him in Double Dash. Unfortunate for Donkey Kong Jr., but at least we can still see him cheering racers on in the track Waluigi Stadium. This is the background sprite in more detail. So he wasn't entirely cut, I guess. It's a shame though, as it would have been interesting to hear some of his voice lines. Now let's take a look at some of the cut features. On November 3rd, 2003, CVG News interviewed Double Dash's chief director Kiyoshi Mizuki along with two of the game's producers Shinya Takahashi and Tadashi Sugiyama. This interview is great because we were able to peek into the mindset of the developers and discover what was their vision for this title. We are able to see how the developers approached what stayed in the game and what was cut when CVG asked the following. There have been many new gameplay additions in Mario Kart, but some have also been taken out. For example, the ability to escape the banana and the use of the feather item. We'd like to ask how it was decided which gameplay features were kept in and which were removed. Mr. Mizuki answered by saying, "If you are the best veteran Mario Kart driver, you can easily dodge the banana effect all the time. However, it is pretty hard for a novice player to dodge the effect of the banana, and they can easily fall off from the courses. In other words, the existence of the banana can widen the gap between the ability of the veteran player and the novice player. From this we can see the developers wanted to ensure that veteran players weren't able to leverage game knowledge to get an advantage, so the banana slip feature was cut." This is followed up by a question asking about another missing mechanic. "You already explained to us about the banana escape move that was removed. I would like to know if it was for the same reason that being able to hold a shell at the rear of the cart was also removed." Mizuki answered with the following. "The answer is similar to the one I gave you earlier regarding the banana slip. The veteran player can easily dodge the shell if they can hold it in the backside of the cart, and once again, that can contribute to widening the skill gap. On the other hand, you still can make a difference by throwing items into the red shells that are thrown by the other carts. All in all, we really wanted to create gameplay where the novice players and veteran players can enjoy themselves. Interesting to see that making this game very accessible was embedded deeply in the design philosophy. Not being able to hold items behind you, but having to time it at the very last moment to dodge red shells has always been part of the game that stuck out to me as strange. But after researching this video, I finally understand it a bit better. In my opinion, I think the development team wanted veteran players to really have to work for their advantages, opposed to letting game knowledge carry them without the use of any skill. In the case of being unable to hold items behind your back, you still are able to negate red shells with items, but you will need a lot more skill and timing to do so. The idea of creating a strong experience for both novices and veterans steered the direction of the game. If we break it down, the whole gimmick behind Double Dash is essentially the ability to drive the kart with two people. It's the only game to feature a co-op racing mode, and it's a very significant design choice that fits with the game's theme. This is confirmed when Mizuki says the following. "If you are the amateur player who is not confident enough in driving the game, or if you have never played a video game whatsoever, then you can sit on the rear seat of the cart and all you have to do is attack the other carts or other characters." Ask any Mario Kart fan out there. The unique feel of Double Dash's tandem riding is what makes this entry in the series memorable for many players. CVG went on to ask in detail about some of the potential features for the game. We ended up learning about some interactivity between the Game Boy Advance and the Gamecube that was originally considered but ultimately dropped. They asked the following. "As the LAN game is an excellent way of playing, have you ever considered the possibility of producing an online mode or some connectivity with the Game Boy?" To which Sugiyama answered, "As you know, the local area network technology is implemented in Double Dash. Nintendo will never stop studying and working on newly emerging technologies. On the other hand, however, current online infrastructures do not allow Double Dash to be played at a satisfactory level. As a matter of fact, we have talked about adapting the connectivity with the GBA for a variety of possibilities. However, in the end, we came to the conclusion that Double Dash is not suited to any connectivity ideas, and we decided not to include that kind of option for the game. From this we can see that there were some considerations to implement the Game Boy Advance cable. Usually games with this cable connectivity feature would unlock some exclusive content. It's worth noting that a few titles used it to unlock additional multiplayer features. It's unknown what kinds of ideas the devs were exploring, but at the end of the day it was likely cut as they couldn't find a meaningful way to make use of the technology. The final bit of information we learned through this interview is in regard to how the speed of the game itself was altered, with CVG asking, "Have you actually made any changes to Mario Kart in response to the feedback at E3 that was received after its initial showing? Or were the improvements that have been found in the final game always intended from the start?" We're referring specifically to the increase in speed and the addition of power sliding, to which Mizuki responded, "The feedback we got from this exhibition was very helpful and we took it into consideration. More specifically, I was reading through the online news after we had shown Mario Kart at the exhibition and we considered this information. We did not only take on the opinions from the online media and the people from the gaming media in general, but also we have had a similar impression from many other test groups. And that is the reason why speed is actually up in the final version in comparison with the initial demos shown at the exhibitions. It's great to see that even this late in development, the team had been receiving feedback during E3, and essentially people were not enjoying how slow and sluggish the title had felt. With this information, they tuned Double Dash to play at the higher speed that we are familiar with today. You can't say they didn't take the criticism to heart. Other features that were cut can be discovered by diving into the unused files on the demo disc. This included a reverse cup that was planned for the game. For those who are not familiar, the reverse cup allows players to drive on tracks backwards. Both the icon for this cup and models for the reverse cup trophies were discovered. It's a shame it was cut, as the reverse cup always tends to add a lot of variety to the game, especially with tracks where you have to drive into oncoming traffic. The battle mode in the final version had 3 different game modes accessible for players: Balloon Battle, Bob-omb Blast, and Shine Thief. But when looking at the debug menu for the game, we are able to see a 4th mode known only as Robbery. Many people have guessed that it was possibly similar to the Coin Runner mode that appeared in later titles, which saw players collecting coins and trying to prevent other players from gathering them. Looking further into the debug menus, the battle mode maps are referred to as Mini 1 through 8, although the final game only contained 6 battle mode maps. 2 maps were clearly cut here, and they are unfortunately not accessible when you try to delve deeper into it. Speaking of maps and tracks, let's discuss some of the information we know from the dev team in regards to what was cut when Chief Director Kiyoshi Mizuki said the following when asked about the map choices for Double Dash. "We have come up with 16 tracks, but as a matter of fact we considered adding several more courses. But this time we really wanted each one of the courses to become very unique and different from all the others. So we have deliberately eliminated those tracks which may sound or look like any other courses. Each track is a very special one, different from the others. And when we are looking up other racing games, even though some of them may boast a number of different tracks, actually when it comes to the actual background scenery and variety of racetracks, there are many courses which look the same. We really didn't want that, and that is the reason why we have settled with 16 tracks. Unfortunately, there currently are no available leaks or unused files that would hint towards these maps that Mizuki mentioned they were considering. There are no graphical files in the demo disc that point towards anything other than what ended up being in the final game. This suggests that if the maps were cut, they were cut earlier on in the development cycle and never made it into the demo files. With that being said, it's possible that sometime in the future, earlier development versions of this game may appear out there on the internet which will contain more information. Forgive me as I explore a tangent that I have been thinking about since I was digging into information for this video. But I believe we can try to piece together some of the clues as to what tracks may have been cut using the debug menu. This is mainly because the developers strangely named the courses after characters in the game, with just a few exceptions. There were 16 courses in Double Dash, and most of them were associated with a character or designed in a way to represent a character's theme. If we use the process of elimination to figure out which characters had courses and which did not, we might be able to gain additional insight. I came up with the following theory. Baby Luigi and Baby Mario are both represented by Baby Park, which is simply titled Baby in the debug menu. This means we deduct 1 from the total course count and 2 from the character count, leaving us with 15 courses and 18 characters unaccounted for. There were generic names for desert, rainbow, snow, which I'm assuming were just themed maps that Nintendo tries to include in every Mario Kart title. in this case Rainbow, meaning Rainbow Road, etc., which leaves us with 12 courses and 18 characters. The 6 characters unaccounted for are Toad, Toadette, Bowser Jr., Petey Piranha, King Boo, and finally Birdo. These don't have their names linked in the debug menu. It's safe to say that Bowser Jr. was likely cut due to Bowser's Castle already being a thing. Now we are down to 5. Birdo appeared in the Super Mario Bros. Series and numerous Nintendo spin-offs with little to no theme attached to her, so the devs probably felt like they couldn't make anything unique. This leaves us with 4 characters: Toad, Toadette, Petey Piranha, and King Boo. Want to know what all these characters have in common? These are the unlockable characters for Double Dash, which would explain why they didn't show up with courses named after them. It would have been nice if Nintendo had included another cup that had their themed courses in it, but the whole having unlockables in a Mario Kart title was a very new concept at the time. But anyways, that was my theory. Let's get back on topic. In the demo disc there is an early version of Sherbet Land, and thanks to an amazing Double Dash modder named Debug Yoshi, we are able to take a look at what the course looked like during development. We can see placeholder images for the Freezy as well as lots of missing textures. This is likely what all courses look like as developers are brainstorming ideas trying to find something that makes each course unique. In Sherbet Land's case, the ice skating Shy Guys in the middle were always something that stood out to me, and we can see it's implemented early on as well. While the red and blue ice skating Shy Guys did make it into the final game, this cut green Shy Guy model never did. However, it's nice to see he was keeping Donkey Kong Jr. company in the stands. Strange how Nintendo kept putting cut content into the stadium stand sprites, but a cool Easter egg nonetheless. Overall, there were a bunch of minor changes during development to things like font size, the design of the speedometer, as well as some texture changes, but nothing interesting enough to be worth dragging the video out for in order to cover. That's been it for today's video. If you like this series, consider checking out the Mario Kart 64 development video I will have linked in the pinned comments below. Thank you everyone for watching. It's been a blast making these videos, and I'm glad they are being enjoyed. If you'd like to support the channel, then consider subscribing and turning on your notification bell. I don't have a regular upload schedule right now, so you might end up missing something. All the best, and I'll see you in the next one.